Get ready, my friend. Oh yeah, because today we are going to bust autistic myths. These are autistic myths, and we're gonna bust them. Is this a trick balloon? Seriously, forget about the balloon. Autistic myths. There's many of them, and I'm sick of them. So on this video, we are gonna bust the hell out of them. Just like I did to that balloon, y'all. Breaking down autistic barriers is going to be much harder than I thought. As an autistic person, I can tell you there are so many myths and misconceptions around autism. And a lot of these are providing unneeded and additional barriers and impediments to an autistic person living their best life. So, on a special two-part video, I'm going to provide you with autistic myths that need to be busted. Yay! Busted!
And now, here's your neurologically different host, Orion Kelly.
Hey, I'm Orion and I'm autistic. Now, I was diagnosed autistic as an adult, and since that diagnosis, I've decided to devote my time to advocating for autistic people and making the world a better place for the autistic community. I do blogs, podcasts, and these YouTube videos to increase the level of understanding and acceptance of autistic people. So if that's something you'd be interested in learning more about, I'd really be delighted if you consider subscribing to my channel. Hit that subscribe button and don't forget to click on the notifications bell so you never miss another episode. And if you'd like to reach out and say hey, you can find me on my socials, just like the Orion Kelly page on Facebook. Find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and you can go to my website, orionkelly.com.au. You'll find all my podcasts, blogs, and these YouTube videos, and you can reach out and say hey. All right, let's get down to it. Busting Autism Myths Part 1. And the first myth I want to explore is near and dear to my heart. It's the myth of high functioning and low functioning labels for autistic people. Okay, so this belief, or more appropriately put, myth, comes from the idea that high functioning and low functioning autism means some people require support and care, low functioning autistic people, while high functioning autistic people don't really require any support or care because they are high functioning. Their form of autism is more light. They're just a little bit autistic. Labeling people as high functioning or low functioning is actually detrimental for both. For example, if you label me as high functioning because I can do a lot of things without care or support, it takes away from the fact that every day, on a daily basis, I'm nothing but low functioning. And for autistic people who are being classed as low functioning, the issue there is it completely disregards their strengths. It's not like people you class as low functioning can't actually achieve things that high functioning people can achieve. Some labels that may be more helpful would be things like low care needs or high care needs. Regardless of where I am on the spectrum, on the autism spectrum, once I was diagnosed autistic, it was acknowledged that I require daily supports for certain facets of my life. Now, there might be someone on the autism spectrum who requires significantly more daily supports than me. And there might be someone on the autism spectrum who requires significant daily care. But it doesn't mean that none of those people we've just discussed don't have strengths. So the most important thing to remember is high functioning and low functioning are labels that aren't acceptable or even appropriate. All autistic people have their own individual challenges and strengths. Okay, there isn't mild autism. High functioning kind of tells me, oh, well, you've got autism, but it's mild or it's light. There's no such thing as mild autism or light autism. You are diagnosed autistic or you are not. Now, the diagnostic criteria with DSM-5 and the healthcare professionals that do the diagnosis, they use certain ticker box deficits to get a diagnosis. But what they're doing is they're trying to basically identify support needs or support levels. So what the level of support and care required is. But then what's happened along the way is we've taken those support levels that they've used purely for diagnosis and we've tagged them onto a day-to-day label. So the myth that there is high functioning and low functioning autistic people must be busted once and for all. It's not the case. You are autistic or you are not. As an autistic person, you have your own individual challenges and strengths. Some may have low care needs. Others may have high care needs. Some may have medium care needs. But we are all autistic. The next autism myth I want to bust is a myth around empathy. There is this misconception that autistic people, for the most part, are uncaring, unfeeling, are cold, lack empathy. Basically the idea that autistic people don't experience emotions. This is a massive myth, and I can explain why. For starters, certainly in my experience, autistic people can feel deeper levels of empathy than any other person. Autistic people can, in fact, take on the emotions, be that pain or joy or all other emotions, take it on right into deep inside our soul. And the problem comes with this myth that autistic people are, in fact, extremely empathetic and caring, and they take it on. But it's what is reflected back to the person who is in pain or is feeling joy, or the person whose feelings have been taken on. What's reflected back can come across on the exterior as the things the myth talks about. Emotionless or uncaring or cold. The issue, and what's probably caused the myth, isn't the taking on of the emotions, isn't the fact that we are empathetic. The issue is showing that back to a neurotypical person in a neurotypical way. Reflecting our feelings, reflecting our empathy back, that's the breakdown. And in the breakdown of reflecting that back, of being able to process it and reflect it in a way where a neurotypical person can see we are deeply, deeply affected by what they're going through, that's where it comes across cold and uncaring and emotionless. Another factor that has led to this myth is autistic people like myself can struggle to actually detect or pick up emotions from neurotypical people when it's not properly or conveyed in a straightforward fashion, through non-verbal cues, through body language, through unspoken actions. In fact, from my point of view, I probably would never even know that I should be looking for it. So I don't see it, and therefore I don't feel it, and therefore you think I'm cold because I haven't been able to pick up your cues, your body language, your unspoken actions. Because I haven't picked that up, I must have picked it up and just am cold and emotionless. Do you see the breakdown there? But that's not the case. I'm not cold and emotionless. I'm not lacking in empathy. I just haven't picked it up. Okay, now this next autism myth we want to bust is a general myth that if you have autism, you are intellectually disabled. You have an intellectual disability. You only have deficits. This is a myth. We have to be clear. Some people that are autistic have an intellectual disability. And some people who are autistic do not. Some people who are autistic have above average IQs. Some people who are autistic have average IQs. So the idea that being born autistic means you have an intellectual disability is rubbish. It's just not right. It's a myth. It's busted. Now, the history behind that, in my opinion, comes from the medical or deficit-based model of viewing autistic people. So when you look at a diagnostic criteria like the DSM-5 or the way the medical model has diagnosed autistic people, it simply comes down to going through a checklist of really what autistic people can't do. There's no real conversation or dialogue in the strengths of autistic people, what they can do. It just comes down to, can we build a case that this person has enough deficits, as in can't do enough things neurotypical people can do, to therefore diagnose them as autistic. So really, the diagnostic criteria, the medical model of viewing autistic people as people with deficits that need to be fixed or improved or altered or intervened upon, is one of the main drivers to people just assuming autistic people all have intellectual disabilities, when in fact, that's not the case. All autistic people are 100% different to all other autistic people, all with individual challenges and strengths. I'd say probably one of the most damaging autism myths to the autistic community is this myth that autism is a disease and therefore autism can be cured or autism can be grown out of. I want to bust this myth like I busted that red balloon. Oh yeah, I got it on eventually. Bottom line, autism is not a disease. It's a neurological developmental disability. Our brains are wired differently. It's not a disease. You can't acquire it. You can't catch it. You can't cure it. You can't outgrow it. And it can't be prevented. You're born autistic. You're either born autistic or you're not. I don't want to say it's a lifelong disability or a lifelong condition, because everyone born with a brain has their brain until they die, right? Well, if I'm born autistic, that means I'm born with a different brain. So I was born autistic, I'll die autistic. It's a lifelong thing. You don't outgrow it. It doesn't get easier or lighter. It can't be cured or prevented. Bust the myth. Autism is not a disease. All right, now I understand that the next myth we're going to do isn't really a myth anymore, because it's had, well, over 2 decades of 100% rock solid proof to completely debunk it. We're going to talk about it just in case someone out there still wants to peddle this crap, okay? The myth is vaccines cause autism. This one's going to be really brief because, I kind of, in a way, don't feel like I should even be talking about this anymore. But just in case there's a couple of Karens out there, let's sort this out once and for all. Historically, there was this weird and bizarre thought that the MMR vaccine, so measles, mumps, rubella, or vaccines of some nature, can cause autism. That came from some quite bogus manufactured and really uncredited studies that simply weren't true. Now, we've had over 2 decades, over 20 years of settled scientific proof, scientific evidence, evidence-based studies that have clearly proven there is no link to vaccines causing autism. Again, vaccines do not cause autism. Okay, Karen? This next autism myth is something that I actually experience quite a lot. I don't personally know why. I guess it comes down to stereotypes, but the idea that someone might say, oh, really? I wouldn't have picked you for being autistic, or you don't look autistic. So the myth is that all autistic people look the same. This myth really pushes my buttons. It really always gets me fired up. Okay, so if we're talking about you don't look autistic, I wouldn't pick you for being autistic, and the myth that all autistic people in essence look the same or are alike, it's strange because to me that seems like a physical manifestation. But autism is nothing more than a neurological difference. We have an autistic brain rather than a neurotypical brain or a non-autistic brain, because I understand there are some people who are not autistic and also are not neurotypical. So what I'm saying is there can't be a physical similarity, right? You can't all look the same if there's no physical connection to being autistic. It's a different brain. All autistic people are absolutely individual. You will not meet the same 2 autistic people. We all have individual challenges and strengths. It isn't specific to one gender or one race or geographical location. There's no physical connection. There's no autistic look, aside from the autistic look I'm giving you right now for thinking this myth exists. Menacing. The final autism myth I want to bust on part 1 of busting autism myths is the myth that autistic people can't or don't want to establish relationships. That can be friendships or actual intimate relations. There's no question that autistic people, and in my experience specifically as an autistic person, assistance, support or help with social interactions, with gaining friendships, with making connections is absolutely required. There's no question about that. It's part of the challenge of being autistic. Small talk and interactions and understanding how you're supposed to talk to a neurotypical person, because in case you didn't know, the neurotypical people, they don't like honesty. Don't ever tell them the truth. They really don't like it. In addition to that, the world around us is a hard world to process. You know, we're spending minute by minute processing not only the world around us, but the people around us, hearing what they're saying, taking it in, processing it, working out what do I say back, or what reaction or facial expression should I present in that scenario. And again, it doesn't have to be right. It's going through an autistic brain to come out neurotypical. But clearly, as an autistic person, there is support required for social interactions of being in the world around us. But that doesn't mean for a second autistic people don't value and desire friendships. Okay, so I'm autistic, yes, I'm married, and I have 2 kids. Okay, I've said this in almost all my videos. I don't have a lot of friends. It's not because I don't want to have a lot of friends. It's because I don't have a lot of friends. And that's probably because I'm not that great at making friends and keeping friends. But again, I put that all down to an acceptance of an autistic person and a neurotypical person being friends. It's okay for someone to want to be your friend, but if you can't be yourself and they don't like when you are yourself, then you can't be their friend. So it's a tricky situation. It's not like I'm saying I don't want friends when I say I don't really have any friends. It's just the way it is being an autistic person. Being married and having kids, having a family, is one of the greatest things I've ever done in my life, one of my greatest achievements. I would be nowhere without my wife and my family. So I really want to be clear that although all autistic people have their own preferences and their own differences, as a rule, this idea that we can't and don't want to form friendships and relationships is completely wrong. Myth busted. Stand by for part 2 of busting autism myths. I've got more myths to debunk. In the meantime, you might want to click on my videos, What It Feels Like to Be Autistic, for even more of an insight into the mind of an autistic person, so you can debunk more myths and get to know us better. Well, go on. What are you waiting for? Click.